rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Hello to all, of course, of my Whiskey Warrior P1s. You will always be Whiskey Warriors in my mind. And regardless of what persona I may take, I will always be a Whiskey Warrior as well as being a American. All right. So some people might ask what the heck was going on there. We had an early chat. For those of you that don't know, I open up the rumble.com channel a little early. I usually try to hit it about half an hour before showtime. And so they all come in, you know, my faithful Whiskey Warrior P1 followers that all want to jump in. They come in and they start chatting about different things. And so there was a couple of conversations about different personas, because of course because of the fact that I have a couple different channels, I have different Rumble personas. My personal persona, which still is tied to the Whiskey Musings username. Then I have my persona here, which is American Perspective. That's the channel. And then I have a persona that goes with Constitution Quarter, because I set up a channel for Constitution Quarter. And I also have a McGroin, which is a huge following here on Rumble. The McGroins were made popular out of Dan Bongino's show and so on and so forth. And so, you know, they invited me to join, so I use the McGroin personality when I'm talking to them. And then, of course, I use American Perspective pretty much everywhere else. Constitution Quarter only shows up every so often. I mean, actually, it never shows up in terms of the chat, but anyway, so we were all, you know, kind of chatting. And so I just pointed out that those are all my little personas. So if you see me across the Rumble ethosphere in any one of those personas, feel free to say hi, but just remember that I am always 100% American. And that is unfortunate for the fact that the choosing or the choice to say that anymore and be a patriot is actually starting to wane a little bit. And so that's one of the main topics that I am going to discuss tonight. No, I don't want to necessarily talk about Joe Biden's speech, because it was disastrous, again, just to say the least. And so, and plus all the political pundits kind of already covered it. So he basically just really quickly, he went off script and said a few things. And yeah, it's just, you know, and lied throughout the whole thing. So yeah, whatever. Same old with good old Joe. All right. So tonight we're going to kick it off. We have Definitely Not Karen from Rumble leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hats, and follow along with Definitely Not Karen in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And of course, I thank you. Definitely Not Karen. I try not to use people's like real names unless, of course, they give me permission to do so. But anyway, so that was Definitely Not Karen. If you would like to submit your version of the Pledge of Allegiance, you can do so by recording yourself and then sending me the audio file to my email address, fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Now, I want to ask whoever told Mother Nature to turn on the heat, please tell her to turn it back down. It is freaking hot. Here I am, in my little corner of the Northwest world, and it's 82 degrees up here. At least that's what it feels like. I mean, officially the temperatures, I don't know how they do that. I don't understand how they have the difference between what the temperature actually is and what it feels like. But according to some people, the temperature is one thing. In this case, I think they said it's like 76 or 77. Yet my thermometer that's outside, that is an outside weather thermometer, is they are freaking showing that it's 82. It's way too freaking hot. That's why I'm in a t-shirt. I ordered some t-shirts and I'm hoping to get them soon. Of course, with the Independence Day holiday, it's Amy, who's from Florida, says, "Wussies, come to Florida. We are used to it." No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to Florida. That humidity is about the same as what it is up here. And so no, thank you. I don't want it. Anyway, so let me go ahead and get out our sponsor for tonight. So I have an announcement for the wonderful digital radio station of True Grit Roots Network. We are debuting starting tonight. Let me see. Is it tonight? Yes. Starting tonight at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is right now, or Central Daylight Time, I should say, it's an hour from now. In 1 hour from now, we are debuting a interview that was done with the artist Walter Trout. And Walter Trout is a very well-known blues artist. And here is basically what the interview is about. Join host Pat Quinn and guests, blues rock artist Walter Trout and Marie Trout, PhD, who go in depth with Walter's liver transplant that inspired the making of his, I'm assuming, newest album, Battle Scars. This candid interview features never before shared stories of their experience, along with insight to each song recorded. Their story will give you hope. This is an all-access pass interview exclusively on TGRN Blues. So join us for the 10-year anniversary special to hear the stories behind the music. Once again, that is, and they've got plenty of interview dates and times for the next several days. We've got one pretty much every day with a couple on Sunday, July 7th, but up until July 11th, Thursday. So you've got roughly about a week to listen to this interview. So I would love it if you go and check it out. Once again, it's hosted by our very own Pat Mighty Quinn on True Grit Roots Network. Go to tgrn.net. You'll find a menu item called Walter Trout. You can check it out. It has his bio, some pictures, and things like that. It's just great information to have, and you can listen to the interview and, of course, listen to some of his fantastic blues rock songs, I should say. Once again, go to tgrn.net and check us out online. You can actually listen to the interview directly in your browser at that site, or if you want, you can click on the links to download our app to your mobile device. You can also find us in the Live 365 catalog of digital radio stations, as well as iHeartRadio and Odyssey, AUDACY, Odyssey app as well. So True Grit Roots Network, TGRN Blues, out of Austin, Texas. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with this. As you know, we had our 248th American birthday yesterday. And just so you're aware, the White House came out with a, well, they were clapping themselves on the back, which is essentially, that's, kind of the thing. But they were clapping themselves on the back for a total of a wonderful, fantastic, amazing, and unprecedented savings of literally, as soon as I get it up here, literally 1 cent. Yes, 1 cent, folks. They were applauding 1 cent savings in gas. Okay. The White House touts $3.49 gas, 1 cent cheaper than last year on Independence Day. Gas Buddy estimated a slight decline in gas prices for this Independence Day. Yeah. They also came out, I saw another article that was talking about prices of like hot dogs, burgers, buns, things like that, that were all higher this year. The White House spokesperson said that they said July 4th. I'm substituting Independence Day because it's not July 4th. It's freaking Independence Day, damn it. Independence Day gas prices expect to hit the lowest level in 3 years. Oh, yay. It's a total of $1.30 decline compared to 2022. But yet I seem to recall paying less than $2 a gallon in the Trump era years. So, yeah, it's not a savings, folks. It might be a savings from when Biden got into office, but it's not a savings overall. And that's what I keep telling these lunatic moron leftists that are out there saying, hey, inflation is down. No, it's not. It's not even close. We'd have to be in the negatives in terms of inflation rate in order for everything to come down. There is absolutely no way that that's the case. But of course, they keep touting it and they keep saying, oh, the inflation and, the economy is great. Inflation's great. Joe Biden is great. Jill Biden looks great in her, grandma pattern, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the point being is that, yes, folks, Joe Biden is still president. Yes, folks, we still have inflation, and including, yes, folks, our the amount of money that you spend on your food, gas, and other essential services is still higher. And that's just the way it is. All right, so we passed, which, by the way, I didn't tell anybody. I hope you guys had a great Independence Day. I know I did. We had quite a few fireworks going off. There was actually a period of time that I was a little concerned that our outdoor cat Badger was going to disappear on us, but 5:30 this morning he was like, let me in, and so he was hungry, I guess. He typically finds a place to hole up for the holiday and covers himself up. He does that for both New Year's, because I don't know about you guys, but around here for New Year's Eve, they take whatever they have left over from the Independence Day holiday that they didn't fire off, and they hold it off for New Year's. And so they fire it off on New Year's. So we get a few firecrackers and things like that on New Year's too. But anyway, I saw these after celebrating our amazing and stupendous 248th birthday of America. I saw a couple articles here that, definitely make me concerned, but at the same time, it's also not surprising because of the stranglehold that the Marxist leftist Democrats have had on our American education system and our society of the younger generation of Americans. So this in Front Page magazine, only 1 in 3 Dems are very proud to be Americans. And Republicans, which doesn't really surprise me any, but the Republicans are far prouder of America, even though we're under leftist rule. than the Democrats actually are of the country that they are running. So in this article, and I'm going to read this for you. In this article, it states, Republicans' pride in America has consistently outpaced that of Democrats, while independents' views have been closer to Democrats. Currently, 59% of Republicans, 34% of Democrats, and 36% of independents say they are extremely proud to be an American. The 25-point gap in extreme pride between Republicans and Republicans and Democrats today is similar to the 28-point average gap since 2001. The latest difference between the two parties is less than half of the record high gap, which was 54 points back in 2019, when an all-time low of 22% of Democrats expressed extreme pride. Now, back in 2019, they claimed that big thing, big difference is, and it was a record high gap, had something to do with Trump, which in reality, here we've got 3 years worth of Democrats running right now, running things, and that hasn't really changed. It hasn't really made much of a difference. So apparently, even though the Democrats are in charge, they're still pissed off and upset, and they just flat out don't like America at all. And of course, this has to deal with the fact that everything that you see on the mainstream media and in the newsprint, as well as all of the pretty much any place that you go, it's all about how America is bad, America is horrible. I mean, what do? They put, like here, for an example, there was Palestinian protests yesterday during our Independence Day celebrations. In fact, there was one in particular that was in one Democrat-run city that interrupted some of the celebrations, and so it was just a bit of a pain and a bit of a mess. And they keep, of course, telling everybody that America is terrible. That we were founded on slavery. We weren't. That America itself is bad and horrible, even though we're the greatest country that has ever graced this earth, that we were part of the institutions that changed the ideas of slavery and joined in with our other Western ally, Great Britain, in abolishing slavery, being the second country to do so. And then you have, of course, all of the fact that things that we have done here. Think of how many technological advances and breakthroughs have occurred here in the United States. We are higher in terms of our poverty level is like so much higher than just about everybody else in the world. And, again, the Dems seem to think that we're just in this absolute nasty, horrible country. And yet here we are doing our thing and making the whole world better, because when you think about it, as I was discussing on Wednesday, with regards to the world, we are the de facto world police. And when we don't have a strong leader, that causes things like what you're seeing across the globe to occur. So I don't understand, and I still can't figure out how anybody can sit here and say that you can't be proud in America. In fact, there was a video, Wendy Bell Radio played it. I was considering playing it tonight, but frankly, I didn't want to listen to the jackass who created it. But he was a guy, Democrat, obviously, who was standing on a beach someplace, and he was showing that another beachgoer who he claimed were MAGA, which, by the way, I didn't actually see any evidence of that, but he started cussing him out and saying things like, well, We all know that we're in America. You don't need to be putting up flags. You didn't go and storm the beaches of Normandy, and you didn't do all of this other, bull crap. And he, put some very colloquial, colorful words in there. But all he complained about was the fact that the U.S. flag was placed on a beach in the United States and was being displayed in a public zone, in a public beach, and he was pissed off about that. I don't know about you, but I can't go through life being that pissed off about certain things of that scenario. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't fly a flag. Hell, after 9/11, which I have to admit was probably, at least in my recollection, probably the greatest show of patriotism across the entire United States, was right after 9/11, and everybody started flying Old Glory. In fact, you couldn't even buy a U.S. flag in the stores because people had come in and bought them all out. So having this instance of this situation where people are not proud of America. Look, I don't like our current government. I don't like our current elected representatives. And I definitely don't like the direction that the country is going. But I can tell you right now that regardless of that, we are still in the greatest country in the world. We have our problems, yes. But what we have here is far and beyond better than any other place on this planet. I was talking to Steven Stiles this afternoon, and he and I were kind of talking about things like this, but I flat out asked him, I said, can you, because I know I can't, but can you think of a place that you would rather go that would have equal to what you have here? At a minimum, equal. Or I even expanded it and kind of made the mention, what about if it was just a little less than what you have here? And the rights, the abilities, the things that we have, I didn't quite go into this detail because he'll probably call me on it if he ever listens to this, but the fact of the matter is that he pretty much said, he goes, there is no other place to go. What we have here is not duplicated any place in the world. Every freedom and right that we have here is not duplicated anywhere else in the world. And so I can't explain, and I certainly can't agree with, the fact that American pride is at a near record low. I cannot do it. Now, this is the 5th consecutive year, according to a Gallup poll published Tuesday. This is the 5th consecutive year that this reading has been between 38% and 43%. Basically, that 2 in 5 total Americans, 41% of them, is saying that they are extremely proud to be an American. That's just, I can't even understand it. I mean, you've got this great and wonderful country. You've got the ability. I mean, let me just put it to you like this. If you recall back in 2016 and even in 2020, but 2016 is when it came out, all of these Hollywood left-wing lunatics, they all stated the exact same thing. That if Donald Trump was going to become president, they were going to leave the country forever. They're still here. Whoopi Goldberg said it. I'm trying to think. There was so many. I think Joy Behar may have said it. I'm fairly certain that Bette Midler said it. I know Rob Reiner said it. And yet, all of these same individuals are still here Oh, thank you, Bam. Bam says share. Share said it too. They're all still here. And here's the other thing that is probably going to happen. These same people are already touting that. They're already talking about it. I guarantee you they're not going to leave. And the reason why they won't is because they know that if they were to go somewhere else, they would not be able to afford, not just monetarily, but in terms of all the wonderful things that this country actually has available for us. Oh, thank you. Barbara Streisand too. Yeah, she said it too. But they would not be able to encounter, afford, experience. They would not be able to continue their lifestyles elsewhere. And that's why they stay here. Even though they crap all over the country and they crap all over the flag, they say that we're, racist and bigoted and all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, I can't understand where these people come from, because even in the worst of times, America was still America. And Americans were still the greatest group of individuals who have accomplished extremely and extraordinary feats throughout our history. There is no reason why we should not be proud. Regardless of where we are today, we should not be proud of our accomplishments that this country, this great country that we call home, has done for the world. All right. Music Man, thank you very much for the Rumble rant. I do appreciate that, but unfortunately, I'm not out drinking alcohol tonight. That would be a Wednesday and Saturday thing. But I will take a drink of my Arizona sweet tea. There you go. Thank you very much for that. All right. So, as I am speaking right now, apparently Joe Biden is doing a interview with George Stephanopoulos, I guess. And there's still talk about a Biden replacement. And it's still out there. And so because it happens to be out in the news sphere, I'm going to discuss it just a little bit. Not too long, but the Daily Fetched actually launched or sent out an interesting, a very interesting little article with regards to who is potentially going to be Biden's replacement. Oh, and of course it says that Democrats are about to make a fatal mistake. And this, I'm telling you, is true. But apparently, according to a report from Reuters, senior sources from the White House and Democrats and even the Biden campaign have talked about the likely candidate to replace Biden on the primary ticket. Sources now say Kamala Harris leads the pack of potential contenders. Biden is now suffering a wave of headlines highlighting his disappears performance in a Thursday's debate, which, yeah, we're still talking about it. But yeah, several names were floated, however, floated, whatever. And Harris apparently has emerged as the top candidate, according to Reuters. Now, this would be a problem. Harris is no match for Trump. Harris is no match for Trump. This is true. All of the polling that we are seeing in terms of the potential heads-up matchups with Donald Trump. They all, I mean, even like Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, they all are failing. Every single one of them are failing. Her baggage, Harris's baggage and everything is meaning the disaster that she is going. Now, Trump also apparently had a viral video that he put out yesterday from a golf course where he said, quote, "I got him out," meaning Biden. And then he says, "That means we have Kamala." And then he sort of said, "I think she's going to be better." And then apparently he is also heard to be saying, "She's so bad. She's so pathetic. She's so effing bad." And he just continues before pivoting his insults back toward Biden again. And it's a golf cart video that apparently he was talking to Barron, or Barron Trump was with him at the time. It's floating around on X. You can see it on The Wakening, at The Wakening handle. And you can go and take a look at that. But, yep. They are, there's also leaking from Kanekoa the Great, on X, also leaked a video where they were talking about, or they were talking to Hollywood Democratic megadonor Ari Emanuel, who is torching Joe Biden, saying that "I talked to a bunch of big donors and they're all moving their money to Congress and the Senate. He gave us a bunch of malarkey and I'm really pissed. We should all be really pissed." Yeah, that's the sentiment. They are all coming after Joe Biden. Well, I mentioned those polls. And according to the Daily Wire, there is only one actual Democrat. One actual Democrat who potentially could beat Donald Trump in the hypothetical matchup, according to this poll. It's a Reuters Ipsos poll. It was released this week that shows Trump literally tied with Joe Biden and leading Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. Trump, however, fell far, not just a little bit behind, but far behind Michelle Obama. Supposedly, she, in the poll, bested Trump by 11 points, garnering 50% of the vote compared to Trump's 39% in there. That's kind of interesting. Now, granted, it was a poll of just over 1,000 U.S. adults, and it was conducted just days after Biden's poor debate performance. But the fact of the matter is that Michelle has repeatedly said she is not considering a presidential run this cycle. Earlier this year, that she told NBC News in a statement that she was backing Biden's reelection bid. Obama's communications director said in March, former First Lady Michelle Obama has expressed several times over the years that she will not be running for president. Mrs. Obama supports President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris' re-election campaign. The president, of course, and his family have maintained that he's not dropping out of the race. Regardless of the most powerful elected Democrats in Congress and across the country publicly voicing support for Biden, we still have these rumors that are running around. Chuck Schumer, governors who've been floated as potential Biden replacements like Newsom, Whitmer, Pennsylvania Josh Shapiro, and Maryland Governor Wes Moore, they all have said, nope, Joe Biden's our candidate. Joe Biden's our candidate. So all of this stuff is, all of this stuff is just, makes for interesting, I guess, headlines, to be honest. Realistically, and I haven't qualified this or quantified, qualified, confirmed, I guess is really the word that I'm looking for, but I haven't really confirmed this yet. But supposedly there are several states that had cutoffs of Independence Day in terms of changing the actual ballots. Now, we all know that Ohio had a cutoff that screwed up the DNC, because the DNC's convention happens after the cutoff. And so the DNC jumped through a bunch of hoops in order to make this Zoom call type thing, the idea to be able to nominate Joe outside of the convention. We're going to have to see where that goes. I know that's coming up. But we're just going to have to see what's going to happen with that. Again, all of this is just adding to the incredible interest of this particular election cycle. I mean, let's face it, we've had a convicted felon who was actually serving in jail in 1912. Or no, was it 1912, 1920? Anyway, he garnered a small percentage of the vote for president. He was sitting in a Georgia jail. I talked about that about a week ago. So yeah, that's going to be kind of interesting for sure. All right, let's shift gears. But before I do, I want to talk to you about this wonderful place where you can get patriotic clothing, patriotic shirts, accessories, hats, all kinds of things in our wonderful United States colors. It's called theflagshirt.com. You got to head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out their offerings. They've got men's, women's, children's. They've got all sorts of accessories to go along with it. Hats, I don't know if they have scarves, but socks, sunglasses, things like that are all set up with patriotic themed gear. You can check all of them out. And I ordered some t-shirts that are hopefully going to be here in the next few days because it's freaking hot in here. But you can go and check out all of their gear at theflagshirt.com. And hey, I am going to kick in a $5 off coupon. All you need to do to get that is to go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. And you can get a promo code that you can put in the promo code section at checkout to get your $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get yourself a coupon code for $5 off your order at theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. Okay, so let's take a bit of a shift. We had some numbers come out, jobs numbers, and of course, immediately Joe Biden, his intern on X, the White House, they all started talking about these wonderful 200,000 roughly jobs that have been created, and they repeated the lie that it was 15 million jobs, over 15 million jobs created according to them. Well, we all know that's not true because 10 to 11 of those 15 million that they claim came back after COVID, after the restrictions from the shutdown, the artificial first ever shutdown, economic shutdown in U.S. history, that they came back. And so, yeah, he can't claim 15 million, cannot claim 15 million. So, one of the things that caught my eye is after that announcement, which, by the way, ever since they've come into office, they announced the jobs report and then it gets revised down. Not once, but twice, and it does it quite often. The thing about it is, though, is that right now, we can't wait for those revisions to happen because most people don't even read the revisions. They just don't care. Even though the reality of it is that, yeah, we have not had that number of jobs created, period. And even the ones that we have had been created, Majority of them are either in government or part-time jobs. And so, yeah. So anyway, this came out in the Epoch Times, which made me think that maybe something else is going on here. Headline, the number of U.S. workers on unemployment rises to the highest level in over 2 years. The number adds to other labor market data, signaling that the labor market is softening. This doesn't bode well for anybody in terms of getting reelected, potentially. So here from the piece, the number of Americans on unemployment rolls has risen for the 9th straight week, according to data released Wednesday by the Department of Labor, in the latest signal that the labor market is weakening. Total number of Americans collecting unemployment benefits, known as continuing claims, rose to 1.86 million for the week of June 22nd. That's the highest level since November of 2021. Initial jobless claims, widely seen as a proxy for layoffs, also increased slightly from 234,000 to 238,000, according to data from the Labor Department. While that's relatively low by historical standards, initial unemployment filings have been rising steadily recently, after mostly remaining below 220,000 this year. Other data released on July 3rd that bolster the view that the labor market is weakening include the Institute for Supply Management reporting faster contraction of employment in the U.S. service sector, and payroll processor ADP reporting a lack of broad-based job growth. Nella Richardson, ADP chief economist, said in a statement, had it not been for a rebounding in hiring in leisure and hospitality, June would have been a downbeat month. The ADP report indicated that U.S. private employers added 150,000 jobs in June. The group noted that this figure represented the third straight month of slowing job creation numbers. So apparently the government is putting out some numbers that aren't matching up with what is being put out by our favorite resident-in-chief and his cohorts in the administration. So this is not boding well. And of course, the fact that the market labor is softening, and that, yes, we in the know have been telling a lot of people and mentioning this over and over and over again, that the U.S. savings has dissipated and that the amount of credit being used by Americans in order to just pay for necessities has been growing. The credit debt topped $1 trillion not that long ago. And now we see this article in the Epoch Times also that mentions that 3 in 4 Americans, in other words, 75% of the Americans spoken to, say that they're not financially secure, according to a new report. Whoops. Give me just a second. There we go. According to a new report. And this is a bank rate report that came out. And in a study by YouGov, Americans said that they needed to make $186,000 on average to feel financially secure, more than twice the $79,209 the Census Bureau reported that was the average full-time worker made in 2022. Of the 75% who said they weren't financially secure, 45% said they believed they would reach financial security one day, while 30% said they never expect to be financially secure. Reports said that older generations believe themselves less financially secure than younger generations. So 42% of baby boomers aged 60 to 78 and 37% of Gen Xers aged 44 to 59 said that they were not financially secure and didn't think they ever would be. Well, you can count me in that particular scenario, because I pretty much know that with the potential ending of programs such as Social Security, that I probably am not going to end up stopping work after I quote unquote retire. It's more than likely not going to happen. And the money that our government just continually spends over and over and over and over again is probably not going to be healthy enough for me to be able to retire in several years and be able to not work at something else. Chances are what's going to happen is I'm just going to transfer from what I'm doing today into something that I'm doing tomorrow. Hopefully it's this program. We'll see. But anyway, the whole point in a nutshell on all of this is that under Joe Biden, for sure, people are believing now, and they're seeing with all of the financial strife that is running around this country, that we are potentially in a bad, very bad situation, and certainly not making people comfortable with their particular financial situation. One of the things that the Biden administration keeps talking about is the fact that inflation is supposedly dropping. Inflation is not dropping. Inflation is only slowing, because if inflation was dropping, we would be in negative inflation rate numbers. I already mentioned that. That's just an obvious answer. Even the 2% target that the Federal Reserve points to is just a slow increase over year. If we were to actually get into negative numbers range, negative inflation rates, we will definitely have an interesting scenario, because that's never actually happened to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, it's just not looking the best, especially under Joe Biden. Well, when we started this year, one of the things that was on the table was a potential rate cut by Federal Reserve officials. And they essentially kept saying things like, yeah, there'll be a rate cut. We might cut a quarter of a point or maybe a half a point, or, there's going to be a rate cut because we see inflation dropping. And then as we headed into first quarter and second quarter of this year, inflation wasn't really going anywhere. In fact, it just sort of sat. And same thing with the jobs. Jobs haven't really changed much. It's not like we have any kind of a boom. In other words, what we have here is a flavor of stagnation. And so because of that, you end up with this coming here and being a bit of a problem, especially for the incumbent in office, but this also from the Epic Times. Federal Reserve officials warn of rate hikes. If inflation persists, according to their minutes. Tighter financial conditions could result in deteriorating household finances, higher unemployment, participants say. Now, you tie that to the unemployment figures that I just told you. Yeah, our particular economic outlook doesn't look that great right now. In the piece, Federal Reserve officials warned at the June policy meeting that if inflation remained elevated or continued to rise, policymakers might need to raise interest rates, according to meetings from the meeting that were released on Wednesday. Officials noted that they are not ready to cut interest rates until they have obtained greater confidence that the inflation rate is heading towards the central bank's 2% goal. So again, keep in mind, 2% doesn't mean it's going down. It's actually raising, just at a much slower rate. That's already baked into the cake, folks. We're looking at a rate right now of somewhere around 3.4, 3.5%. at this particular moment. So it's just raising a little bit faster than what the central bank actually wants. Whereas during Donald Trump's era, we were below 2%. So just to give you kind of a comparison. But anyway, now they are essentially talking about employing a tighter monetary policy that could lead to deteriorating household financial positions, especially for lower income households, which might prove to have a larger negative effect on economic activity than the staff anticipated. And that is essentially what they are concerned about in terms of this time. So, yeah, it's just we're still not out of the woods, folks. Even though things are slowed down, we're still not out of the woods yet for this particular situation and scenario. And I can tell you that a part of the idea that we have a great economy is not one that is essentially a good, we're not in a good place, economically speaking. We're not in a very bad place. We're not in like the 1980s or anywhere near the place that we were during the Great Depression, but we definitely are not in a good place. And a lot of this is directly affected by the fact that we have Joe Biden in office and he is spend. Well, at least up until the point that the House of Representatives went to the Republicans. All right. I've got one more article for you tonight, and it's a very important piece with regards to international relations. And it kind of brings up an idea that, losing or not having any focus in our Eastern brethren, neighbors across the Pacific. And by them, I'm talking like the Philippines. I'm talking about Japan. I'm talking about Taiwan. Not having any focus over there may not be helping us out any. And the thing about it is that we have a growing concern in the South China Sea. Now, I had mentioned this before, this coming from nationalinterest.org, but I had mentioned this before a couple episodes back, where China and the Philippines have been kind of disputing about the area called the South China Sea. China is trying to claim the South China Sea for themselves, and they've pushed clashes between the South China's Coast Guard and the Philippines Navy have been escalating. They escalated in June. Philippine officials announced late last month that Chinese personnel were attacking dinghies, attempting to provision Philippine troops at the disputed Second Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea. That was the article that I had discussed. Okay. If China succeeded in dominating the South China Sea, the consequences would be immense, article states. Beijing could potentially choke off trade and shipments to Japan, control access to technologies crucial to U.S. economic activities, especially microchips. That's a shot to Taiwan, and project power deep into the Pacific. As you recall in World War II, side note, as you recall in World War II, one of the main objectives was to capture islands such as Midway Island and some of the other islands from the Japanese in order to take control of the larger area of that is over there, because of course, the wide open sea in the Pacific and even in the Atlantic is pretty much, very, very rough to traverse. And so the South China Sea offers some protection because of the Philippine Islands. And it's not quite as deep as the rest of the Pacific. So it becomes a little bit more navigable in that space. Now, the South China Sea happens to be one of the busiest maritime routes in the world, serving as a vital artery for international trade, facilitating the flow of 64% of total goods discharged worldwide in 2022. Any disruption to the free passage of ships through these waters would have far-reaching consequences for the global economy, affecting not only the countries directly involved in the dispute, but also the broader international community. Think about this. If you want a comparison or a similar comparison, just think about when that ship got sideways in the Suez Canal and how long that disrupted shipping and all of those things in that area. You know, it was a largely regional effect, but it did affect other shipping and other timings and everything else throughout the globe. Because believe it or not, today's technology in today's world that we have, we literally are a global economy. And so all it takes is just a small disruption. Even now, if you think about it, the Houthis doing their stink over in the Red Sea is causing problems going through the Suez Canal, to the point that shipping companies are avoiding that area and they're going around the Horn of Africa instead, which, as I explained on a earlier episode, that's adding something like 44 days to the trip for shipping of goods and materials around that area. Now, any attempt by China to restrict access or assert control over the South China Sea would also directly impact U.S. economic interests, potentially leading to higher shipping costs, supply chain disruptions, and increased market volatility. Not to mention the fact that, as the aforementioned ships shipping back and forth from Taiwan, that would be a bit of a problem. The South China Sea trade accounts for 5.72% of all trade in goods for the United States. Safeguarding freedom of navigation in the South China Sea is essential to protecting American prosperity and maintaining its leadership role in the global economy. And that, my friends, is part of the problem, or part of the key. So, essentially what you are looking at is a big problem. And China is expanding its reach across the area and the region and is causing some serious challenges that whoever the next president is going to have to address. Otherwise, we could be looking at some serious problems in global aspects afterward. All right, that pretty much about wraps it up for me tonight. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com and first of all, sign up for an account. It's free. And then find the American Perspective channel. I'm apparently one away from 700. So it would be fantastic if I could pick that up here in the next day or so. Also, if you are on Rumble, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to let Rumble know that you like this video, so it increases my exposure to them, and they in turn could consider me for putting up on the leaderboard, etc., etc. Obviously, all of this just expands exposure for me and the channel, and I appreciate all of it. We will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is 1 hour later, so 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your night, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.